Okay, here we are, Matthew Russell Lee, Inner City Press, here at the Southern District of New York Courthouse, today, June 10th, 2024. Now, we'll begin, as always, with the Trump doc, and there is something today, although it's not a public session. It's a interview with probation in advance of the July 11th sentencing in the Juan Merchan hush money case. Some say don't call it hush money, call it election interference, but it's actually a business records case. And that'll take place by Zoom. We'll see whether we hear anything about it. There's also a kind of Trump-related case. There's a siren, that might be appropriate. Felix Sater, some may have heard of him. He once had an office in Trump Tower. He has a case involving Kazakhstan, Almaty. In any event, this morning he made a filing wanting his long ago, he says, racketeering conviction not to come into evidence. It's a civil trial, but it's one that we'll be covering. We're also covering, of course, the Menendez trial. This is a big kahuna for us right now. Jose Uribe, the cooperator, still on the stand. Hopefully he'll get to cross today. In fact, I think it's inevitable that he will, and that'll be our main focus, but we're also covering Miles Guo, that case. They keep serving up the evidences. Of course, Steve Bannon is in the mix, and the CCP and the Epoch Times guy, not in that case, but somehow parallel. And there's also, sadly, a Bronx fentanyl daycare case. Yes, you heard me right. Bronx fentanyl daycare. A daycare in the Bronx in which fentanyl, the drug, was stored, resulting in 8 injuries, 1 death of a child. One of the defendants, Menendez, has been severed from the case, sort of like Nadine Menendez, Menendez, but 3 are going on trial, and I think it'll be a very fast jury selection. It's Judge Rakoff, and he moves at lightning speed. So we'll be covering that as well. Now, speaking of corruption, the United Nations, we continue to cover them, and of course, there's failure on all fronts, Ukraine, Gaza, but what I want to talk about is the agencies. We last week published an exclusive I don't know what it's not a takedown, it's an expose of Natalia Kanem of UNFPA, her own staff, pointing to specific corruption, her son hired with public dollars, and no response from the UN, because they threw out Inner City Press, and that's fine, or it's not fine, but nobody else there asks these things. All they do is hand-wring about why Antonio Guterres isn't getting better meetings with world leaders. You know why? Because he's an incompetent and corrupt diplomat with absolutely not a single success in 8 years, and he's a censor as well. In any event, we're going to run one today about UNHCR. It's the refugee agency, and it's an American official, for those wondering. Kelly Clements. Watch it, because we're going to be asking the UN to comment on it, and they're not going to. And then Ms. Clements says no one to them to blame. The UN is corrupt, and the U.S. administration has allowed it to be so. To be continued, Inner City Press.